Testing, testing. Good morning. Welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission's administrative meeting for May the 31st, 2023. I hope everyone chose a comfortable seat today because we will be here for quite a while. We'll have a double header today in terms of the docket. Additionally, we have two rulemaking sessions on both offshore wind and low-income energy supply offers right after the administrative meeting today. As many of you may have known, we closed the offices for several days last week. We had a power outage, which ultimately disabled our servers for several days, so we were out of commission. So thank you for your patience. Those items from last Wednesday were rolled over to today's docket. Notably, I'd like to thank our team who was able to restore service after 3 days, led by our executive secretary and his deputy, as well as the folks in information technology, the folks in procurement, building services. We were lucky to restore all functionality over the Memorial Day weekend. So congratulations, thank you so much to those employees who worked around the clock to get us back online. We have some comings and goings on the commission that I would like to recognize. The first is Commissioner Patty Bubar. I would like to thank her for her over 1 year of service on the Maryland Public Service Commission. She had brought so much inquisitiveness to this position. She brought her wealth of knowledge in the energy, environment, and utilities space after more than 40 years with the Department of Energy, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Up until yesterday afternoon, she was steadfast in her work preparing for today's administrative meeting on her computer, discussing items. So she was just so studious, and I will miss her sitting beside me on this bench. So I'd like to thank her and turn to my colleagues for some comments. I'll begin with Commissioner O'Donnell.
Commissioner O'Donnell, can you hear us? He was coming through earlier. Hold on. There we
I can hear you. I cannot hear the chairman.
Oh. Commissioner O'Donnell, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Terrific, thank you. I just said my farewell to Commissioner Bubar, if you'd like to provide any comments.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank Commissioner Bubar for her steadfast service to the citizens of the state of Maryland. She came to us with a wealth of experience, and she took her job very, very seriously. And she approached it with the zeal of a kid in a new candy shop on the corner, and she dug into everything. And I admired that in her. She had a good sense of humor. Commissioner Bubar added to my thinking and helped me develop my thoughts on things. She reached out to parties far and wide, maybe to my fault a little more than I do at some points. But we're going to miss Commissioner Bubar, but I'm sure we'll see her around. Patty did a good job for us, and I wish her farewell and following seas, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it has been really wonderful working and getting to know Commissioner Bubar, and just what a terrific experience it's been. I really have learned a lot from you. I wish I could see you a little better there. And just a wealth of knowledge that you have brought to the commission from service in both the county and at the federal level. So it was just really your collegiality, your kindness, the calming effect that you often had. It was really appreciated, and it's going to be missed. So thank you.
Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. And Commissioner Bubar, let me be the first to call you Commissioner Emeritus Bubar. I certainly did appreciate the time you spent here with the Commission. You embraced our technical staff. You reached out to all of our regulated utility companies in a very aggressive and cordial way. You sponsored tours for our staff to go and take a look at things that they otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to see. And of course, you and encouraging everybody to get to know each other and to see each other. You participated in mentorship programs, and you even embraced my love of donuts and invited people to your office on a regular basis. And so all of those are hallmarks of a person who is committed to the industry and to the state and to serving the citizens of Maryland, which is what you were doing all along as an exemplary member of the commission and as an exemplary citizen of our state. It's been an honor and privilege, and I won't say goodbye because I've learned over the years that that doesn't really happen in this industry. So we'll see each other again somewhere.
Commissioner Bubar, would you like to make any comments?
Yes, I would. Thank you. And those are just touching remarks. I don't even know what to say. But, you know, sometimes you play these games with your family, your kids, and just say, like, what's one word that describes how you feel today, or one word? And I have to say the word that describes how I feel about this opportunity is privileged. It has just been an extreme privilege to have this job. When I got the call from Governor Hogan's office over a year ago to consider applying for Mindy Herman's position, I was busy protecting the environment in Montgomery County. I didn't really even know what the PSC was. So I just couldn't imagine that it would turn out the way it was. So that has just been wonderful. I was familiar with the commission structure from being at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, but I had no idea what a well-oiled machine the PSC is. I mean, it is incredible. And the first person I have to thank is Chairman Stanek. I mean, he reached out to me before I came here and was just so friendly and so open and communicative. I knew exactly what to expect, when to expect it. It was just wonderful. So and we have chats all the time. I'm going to miss those, Jason. Just really love the philosophical discussions we've had as well as your friendship. So thank you very much for that. The other commissioners, just been amazing to get to know you and see what you bring to the table. And so, as Commissioner Linton said, I know our paths will continue to cross again, and I look forward to that. Also, the staff at the PSC, I have just grown to love them so much. As many of you said, that was kind of the first thing I wanted to do, was to just get to know the staff. And they've been so impressive. I'm not going to name names other than Tony and Tony Myers and Matt Phillips, because I know the staff is in good hands under their leadership. But I'm not going to be able to name names of staff folks, because I will definitely leave people out. But you guys are in good hands. But I do want to note that I got to know a lot of the new staff, because when I came, there seemed to be kind of a little bit of an attrition rate that was a little concerning, staff turning over. So I wanted to immediately dive in and get to know what was going on. And we brought on so many new staff, and they just haven't missed a beat. It's just been so impressive to see. Well, I guess maybe Tony and Matt are good taskmasters, because they don't let them sit and kind of have a whole lot of time to learn. They have to immediately, I mean, like, I'm mentoring somebody, and I think within 3 weeks he had to have a buck sheet prepared. So there's no time. People come up to speed, but the teamwork that exists at the staff that helps them come up to speed and share, kind of their learning experiences has just been so impressive. And I know that that's going to continue. And I have to say something about the women at the PSC. They're very, very impressive. They're strong, they're competent, they're good leaders, and I have really appreciated getting to know a lot of the women on the staff at the PSC, and I know there's great things in the future for all of them. I have to say, the regulated community, I see a feeling of mutual respect. I mean, I feel as if the regulated community respects the PSC, and we respect the role of the utilities. And that just makes for a very professional relationship. And there's a lot to be said for that. So I think going into the future, that says a lot too. Our sister organizations in the state, I really have appreciated getting to know. That was another thing that I did when I first came here, was just reach out to all the state organizations. And I'm going to go on record saying thank you to David Lapp. He was extremely friendly to me when I first came. He actually reached out to me before I came as a Montgomery County resident. I've just really enjoyed the relationship with OPC, MEA, MDE, the whole alphabet soup, DHCD. It's just been great to see kind of how the organizations in the state kind of cooperate with each other. And I think that's just going to continue into the future. The advocacy groups, your voices are heard, and it's just good to see going into the future. We're hearing from more and more advocacy groups. Environmental, low income, it's all very important. So it's really great to see that the PSC is so participatory that way. Going forward, there's change in the air, but I know that the PSC staff are resilient. The organization is ready for change, and so I know everybody is in good hands. And I will be watching. It's so great that YouTube is available. And as I head into this, I was telling the chairman this morning, I think in 2 weeks, will be 45 years that I've been working. I started my career in 1978, and so it's like I said to my husband this morning, I said, this is the first day in my professional career that, or the end of kind of a long career, and going into the future, it's just going to be different. And so I look forward to it, but I'll have a little bit of time to watch you. And I just also want to say I'm looking forward to my replacement coming, and I think that it's going to be good. And I look forward to great things continuing to happen at the PSC. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Patty. You will be missed by all at the Public Service Commission. The governor last night announced that Kumar Barve has been sworn in as a commissioner. He is now a full-fledged commissioner at the Public Service Commission. He will assume his position on the bench later next month. In other news, this commission doesn't work without the help of all of its staff, but particularly for the commissioners, we are supported by our advisors, and we have about a half dozen advisors who work on all the items that come before the commission at its administrative meetings, its rulemakings, and all the other hearings that we process. And I'd like to recognize the service of Molly Knoll. Molly was with us for just over 5 years in the capacity as a senior advisor. She worked on so many issues, including distribution system planning, RPS-related issues, retail supply, and she was never afraid to tell me when I was wrong on so many occasions, and I appreciated her counsel and her support. She has taken a new position. She is the Vice President for Policy at the Coalition for Community Solar Access, and I know she's going to bring her intellectual heft, her deep understanding and experience in the solar industry to help CCSA move forward some of its policies. But I truly appreciated Molly's support. She started just a few weeks before I did in 2018, and she is already missed on the floor. I turn to my colleagues if they have any comments or remarks.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say about Ms. Knoll, I had the pleasure of doing her hiring with the commission at the time, and she did not let us down. She was diligent, she was honest, she'd tell you what she thought, and that's what you need in this position. You need someone to tell you what they think, not what you want to hear. And I always appreciated that, so much so that I encouraged Molly to apply for a commissioner position that happened to be vacant at the time, some time back, and this was before the current administration, of course, but and not knowing any of the other applicants, but she was competitive in that environment, and she will be an asset to the organization that receives her. Their gain is our loss, Mr. Chairman, and again, I wish Ms. Knoll fair wind in following seasons.
Thank you, Commissioner Richard.
Yeah, I would just echo your comments. She was really fantastic to work with. I always admired just the passion and intellect she brought to her role. I think some of my most favorite projects and things I'm probably most proud of as far as the products that I was involved in, I know I worked directly with Ms. Knoll, and so yeah, again, I wish her luck. I think she's in a very important organization now, and I expect her to do great things for the solar industry. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I had the opportunity to work with Ms. Knoll while she was still working at the Office of People's Counsel. While in my prior position, she was always very diligent, very focused, and very committed to working on behalf of the citizens of Maryland. That carried over to her responsibilities as our senior advisor. She was always very diligent, very focused on providing any information that we needed and producing the appropriate research necessary to substantiate her positions and arguments that she would have in order to encourage us to make a particular decision. She also took on a role at the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners as the chair of the Consumer and Public Interest Committee. And she did that while I was chair of the commissioner version of that same committee. And so for 3 years, in addition to all of her other responsibilities here, she also took on responsibilities of working on behalf of the commission and consumers on a national level. And she excelled, of course, in that role, almost to the point where the person who took over the position for myself, once my term was over, requested that she remain as the chair of the staff committee. And this is a commissioner from another jurisdiction that made that request. So it just goes to show that she was recognized even beyond Maryland as a person who was capable and producing good work even beyond here. And so that's what's always good for Maryland was when the employees and representatives of our state are, as the little kids say nowadays, showing out to the rest of the society. And so she did that in spades, and I certainly know that the commission will miss her counsel and her guidance and her passion for the work. So she's going to do very well. She had lots of opportunities, and so I'm glad that she's settled on one that she wants, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she does next.
Thank you, Commissioner. Congratulations. Good luck, Molly. And thank you to all our advisors who have stuck around. It's not an easy job. I know that for a fact. I'd like to just make a few additional other staff announcements. I'd like to welcome Rudy Warsh to the Public Service Commission. He just finished his first year of law school at UB Law up the street, and he will be interning with the Office of the General Counsel for the remainder of this summer. Rudy, are you here with us today? He is not. But welcome, Rudy. I'd also like to recognize the promotion of Jamie Bergen. Jamie Bergen has been promoted to the chief clerk position of the commission. She will be also the PSC's official records officer. You may see her signature on a number of official filings going forward under the direction of Andrew Johnston. So welcome to Jamie. Commissioner Bubar mentioned a few minutes ago her pride in the staff, and I share that pride, and it's a good place to work, the Public Service Commission. And it's just, don't take my word for it. I looked at the agency vacancy analysis, rating and ranking 62 agencies in state government, and we have one of the lowest vacancy rates among state agencies at approximately 7%. And that number is something to be proud of. Particularly in light of all the responsibilities that our employees do, the compensation they receive, which may not always be as competitive with the private marketplace. So I'd like to just recognize all the employees, particularly in the wake of Public Service Recognition Week, which was last week. Additionally, for those of you looking for a job in the engineering sector, we have a great position currently open in the engineering division for the electricity side of our shop there. That position closes actually tonight at midnight, so if you know any qualified engineers, we are currently hiring, and that posting will be available for the remainder of the day. Now on to business. We do have meeting minutes to approve from our last meeting on May 3rd, 2023. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The meeting minutes are approved. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. There are 15 items on today's consent agenda. Items number 1 and 2 are from Energy Zebra LLC. Their applications for licenses to supply natural gas and electricity. Item number 3 is an application from Coho Climate Advisors LLC for a license to supply electricity. Item number 4 is a request from Star Energy Partners LLC to cancel its electricity supplier license. Item number 5 is a notice from New Wave Energy Corp. Of name change. Item number 6 is a joint request from PEG Bandwidth MD LLC and Unity National LLC to participate in new financing arrangements. Item number 7 is a notice from L5E LLC of a new trade name. Items 8 through 11 are revised standard offer service charges from Potomac Electric Power Company, Delmarva Power and Light Company, Potomac Edison Company, and Baltimore Gas and Electric Company. And finally, items 12 through 15 are revised purchase of receivable rates from Washington Gas Light Company, Baltimore Gas and Electric Company, again, Baltimore Gas and Electric Company for electric, and then item number 15 is the same for Potomac Edison Company.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any questions on these 15 consent agenda items? Seeing none, with respect to items number 1 and 2, I would move that we grant Energy Zebra LLC a license to operate as a natural gas supplier with respect to item number 1 in the state of Maryland, limited to broker services for the customer classes and service territories applied for and recommended by staff, and apply that also as well to item number 2 with respect to electricity supply in Maryland, limited to broker services for customer classes and service territories applied for and recommended by staff. Direct the company to provide marketing materials and training materials specific to its Maryland operations to the Commission staff and Office of People's Counsel 30 days prior to the utilization of the materials in Maryland, and direct the company to file notice of the Commission within 30 days of any changes to the information in its respective applications. With respect to item number 3, Coho Climate Advisors, I move that we grant the company a license to operate as an electricity supplier in Maryland, limited to broker services for the customer classes and service territories applied for and recommended by staff. Direct the company to provide marketing materials and training materials specific to its Maryland operations to Commission staff 30 days prior to utilization of the materials in Maryland, and direct the company to file notice with the Commission within 30 days of any changes to the information in its application. With respect to item number 4, I move that we approve the cancellation request. With respect to item number 5, I move that we note the filing. With respect to item number 6, I move that we note the new financing arrangements. With respect to item number 7, I move that we note the filing. With respect to items number 8, number 10, number 12, number 13, number 14, and number 15, I move that we accept the tariff revisions for filing with an effective date of June the 1st, 2023. With respect to item number 9, I move that we accept the tariff revisions as revised by staff in its comments dated May 15th, 2023, with an effective date of June 1st, 2023. And finally, with respect to item number 11, I move that we accept the tariff revisions for filing with effective dates of June 1st, 2023, and October 1st, 2023, as applicable. The vote begins with Commissioner Linton,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
and Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motions are approved. Mr. Secretary, the administrative agenda, please.
Mr. Chairman, item number 16 on the administrative agenda is a request to install a taxi cab advertisement from the Independent Taxi Association, Inc.
Thank you. Good morning to our Transportation Director. And if we have the representative from Independent Taxi Association, please approach the right podium. Mr. Gorman, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Mark Gorman on behalf of staff today. On March 6, 2023, the Independent Taxi Association filed a request for Commission approval to display commercial advertising using a rectangular-shaped rooftop billboard on their taxicabs operating in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. The request was amended on May 5th, 2023 to only include taxicabs operating in Baltimore City under the Taxicab Association. A similar request by the Independent Taxi Association was approved by the Commission on August 18th, 2010. However, the company never followed through with the completion of the project. Under current regulation, COMAR 2090-0216E2C provides that commercial advertising may not be installed in or on taxicabs unless permitted by the Commission. Historically, the Commission has accepted the use of rooftop billboards to display commercial advertising on taxicabs within its jurisdiction. The triangular-shaped lighted billboard that is traditionally affixed to the rooftop has been used in Baltimore City taxicabs for more than 2 decades. However, few taxicabs are in operation today that still display these types of signs. Although different in design compared to the older triangular billboards, the Transportation Division has determined that the newer rectangular LED-style billboard does not pose a hazard or safety risk to the riding public, nor does it interfere with the safe operation of the vehicle. Staff recommends that the Commission approve the request from the Independent Taxi Association Incorporated to display commercial advertising by way of a rectangular-shaped electronic rooftop billboard on its taxicabs operating in Baltimore City. That concludes my testimony.
Thank you, Director Gorman. I'll turn to the representative from the Independent Taxi Association. Good morning. If you could please state your name.
Good morning. My name is Judith Howard. My name is Judith Howard. I'm the president of the Independent Taxi.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. We received your 2 letters that you filed. We also reviewed the recommendation of Director Gorman and the Transportation Division. Do you have anything else to add or share with us today?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. I see many more of these LED billboards, and Uber and Lyft operators could earn, I understand, additional revenue just by driving around with these billboards for so many hours per week. So it seems reasonable in light of the changing technology and the requests made by our taxi cab industry in the city of Baltimore. Do my colleagues have any questions? Seeing none, I would move that we approve the company, in this case Independent Taxi Association Incorporated, their request to display commercial advertising by way of a rectangular-shaped rooftop billboard on its taxicabs operating in Baltimore City. The vote begins with Commissioner Linton,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
and Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 17 is a request from Waypost Solar Project LLC for approval of its decommissioning plan.
Morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Roger Austin on behalf of staff. On December 16th, 2022, the Commission issued an order granting Waypost Solar Project LLC, Waypost Solar, a certificate of public convenience and necessity to construct a 92 megawatt solar generating station in Caroline County. Pursuant to the Department of Natural Resources Power Plant Research Programs, PPRP's License Condition 43, Waypost Solar is required to provide the Commission, PPRP, and Caroline County with a decommissioning plan for review and approval prior to the start of construction. The decommissioning plan is required to restore the site to the condition for which it was zoned prior to construction. The plan must also provide for the recycle or reuse of project components to the maximum extent practicable and the proper disposal of those components where necessary. Finally, Waypost Solar must also secure a funding mechanism that covers the cost of implementing the decommissioning plan that is to be updated every 5 years over the life of the project to account for inflation or other necessary changes. This is to ensure that the state and or county are not responsible for decommissioning cost at the end of the project's useful life or in the event it is abandoned. Staff has reviewed Waypost Solar's decommissioning plan, and it finds that the plan adequately addresses, as required by Condition 43, how project components will be removed and or recycled, and how the project site will be restored. After revenues for the resale of project components and construction materials are accounted for, the net decommissioning cost is estimated to be approximately $754,000. Waypost Solar proposes to post financial assurance in the form of a letter of credit in the amount of $1,730,160, which is approximately $976,000 more than the estimated net decommissioning cost. Staff recommends that the Commission approve Waypost Solar's proposed decommissioning plan and direct the company to provide documentary evidence of having acquired a letter of credit for the amount of $1,730,160 prior to the start of construction.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. On May 26th of 2023, the Maryland Energy Administration flagged some concerns, three concerns, with the request for approval. I would invite the administration to speak this morning. Good morning, Ms. McElmore.
Good morning, Chairman. Actually, it's the Power Plant Research Program. It's confusing sometimes. I apologize.
Is it
for that.
the I thought it would have been, but the letterhead is MEA.
Yes, we represent, myself and Mr. Towson represent both the MEA and PPRP,
Okay.
so sometimes the letterhead is confusing. So I apologize for that. But
It also has Brian Frosch listed as Attorney General, so just, shh, we won't tell him. We
he'll
won't.
be watching.
Okay.
So thank you for that. But yes, we have Sandra McLemore on behalf of the Power Plant Research Program. We filed the letter. We agree with staff's recommendations, and we really have nothing more to say. We just wanted to include those, what we believe are inadvertent, a couple of inadvertent things in the filing, and that is all. But I do have with me today Fred Kelly, if you have any questions. He's the Deputy Director at the Power Plant Research Program.
Thank you, Ms. McElmore. I'm sure Mr. Bugelmans will have a response for all three of these. Good morning, Council for Waypost Solar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. David Bugelmans on behalf of Waypost Solar Project LLC. We appreciate staff and PPRP support on this request. Keep this brief because I know we have a busy schedule today. But to respond to PPRP's comments, their first comment was the CPCN was issued for about a 92 megawatt project. The decommissioning plan reflects a project that's about 85 megawatts. And that is correct. And this reflects simply a reduction in size of the project as a result of the CPCN conditions and the refinement as the project proceeded through local permitting. So that size is correct, and we don't believe any changes are needed. The second issue identified was in one part of the decommissioning plan, it refers to the project being in 2 zoning districts, while in another, it refers to being in just 1 zoning district, a rural district. I confirmed the project's in a rural zoning district. The project is consistent with local zoning and is supported by the county. So, for the Commission's information, there's no issue there. Again, it was simply a typo. And then finally, the last issue is another typo in the cost estimate. There's one part of the cost estimate that refers to about a $753,000 revenue from decommissioning. It's actually a cost. In terms of any kind of impact on the 1.7 million we've proposed, there is no impact because what we've proposed, consistent with previous plans, reflects an estimate of effectively startup costs that would be necessary for the state or the county in order to begin decommissioning if they have to step in. So those are the corrections. We apologize for the issues, but we don't believe any changes are necessary to the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Bugelmans, for those clarifications and admissions of a few typos there. With that explanation on the record, Ms. McElmore, are you satisfied?
Yes, Chairman, we're satisfied. That is fine.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any questions on this item? Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. McLemore, I have a question for PPRP.
Yes, Commissioner O'Donnell?
So when staff summarized their buck sheet, they said that the condition was to return the land to the condition that existed to meet its original zoning classification. It was tied to zoning classification. And I'm confused by that because the condition of the land, the structures on it, unless it's a brownfields, which is different, but unless it's something that's, there's nothing tied to the zoning classification and the condition of the land. I don't get it because you could leave this whole structure in place and still meet the zoning classification. I've seen communities that had, 50-year-old housing developments on it. All of a sudden, and they were falling down. All of a sudden, turned into commercial residential, and from purely residential, and nothing was. Eventually, it was mitigated, but not immediately in the change of classification. So I'm trying to ferret out the nexus between zoning classification and the condition that has to be restored here by the company.
Okay, I'm going to let Mr. Kelly answer that for PPRP.
Morning, Commissioner O'Donnell and other commissioners. Fred Kelly from Power Plant Research Program. The interest in our decommissioning condition is just to have the landscape returned to what it was beforehand. The zoning would not change with respect to the project. It would remain under rural zoning, but we feel that the need to be able to address decommissioning so that the project is not abandoned and Maryland is faced with a field of solar panels in the future. So in terms of staff's comment about returning exactly to the way it is in rural, I don't know that 30 years from now, but the project remains in a rural zoned district of Caroline County.
Mr. Kelly, why don't we just say return to the condition that existed prior to the development? That way, there's no tie at all to zoning classifications which have no nexus to the condition of the land. Zero.
I think at this point we're maintaining flexibility in looking forward into the future, understanding that the land does not change in zoning as this project goes forward. What the project will be used for, the land will be used for 30, 35 years from now remains to be seen. But we just feel that the decommissioning plan should address abandonment or just dealing with the solar panels that are part of this project. We don't want those on the landscape in perpetuity.
Well, I understand what your intention is, but your real intention is to return the land to the condition you found it. Not to meet some nebulous zoning classification that has no bearing on the condition of the land or returning it to any certain condition at all.
I think PPRP conceives that the land could be used for something else other than agriculture in the future. We don't want to foreclose upon that. It could be repowered, but as far as our perspective on it, the land remains rural. It could be used for suitable uses of rural properties. In this case here, once the project is concluded, perhaps it would go back to that, revert to that rural landscape use.
Well, I mean, they could leave this thing in place. They leave the cable buried, leave the stands in place, leave all the electrical equipment in place, and it would still meet the rural zoning classification. It has nothing to do with what's on the land.
Well, our hope is
I
that
don't
the
understand
decommissioning...
why PPRP doesn't just say that. Say, return it to the condition you found it, and make sure that it's compatible to its existing use, not its existing zoning classification.
I'll take that back and we'll consider our future discussion of zoning and repurposing the landscape in future cases.
Well, I see a legal battle 30 years down the road because of this nebulous language. It has it's nonsensical. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if there's a desire to fix this now or leave some future commission deal with it, but this doesn't make any sense, in my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me check to see if your colleagues have any questions or concerns on this item. Seeing none, Commissioner, I am inclined to proceed with the motion today, although I recognize Mr. Kelly is planning to bring this issue that you raised back to PPRP for examination and perhaps application in future proposals. Noting Commissioner O'Donnell's concerns, I would move that we approve the company's proposed decommissioning plan and direct the company to provide documentary evidence of having acquired a letter of credit for the amount of $1,730,160 prior to the start of construction. The vote begins with Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
I'm going to vote no, Mr. Chairman, and explain my vote. I think this doesn't make sense. If it fixed this problem, the taking back, and it could be a modification, I'd be happier. But just say, we're going to not worry about this one. Because I can tell you, an enterprising lawyer is going to be before this commission again saying, you approved it here, you got to approve it there. We like it because it gives us a lot of wiggle room. I mean, wiggle room you could drive an oil tanker through, because it makes no sense. And so I'm going to vote no, because this language, I'm surprised no one has caught it up to this point, but this language of zoning classification just makes no sense. And I really didn't get an answer to my question about why not just say return to the condition that existed prior to the development. So no, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye with a split vote. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 18 is a proposal from Columbia Gas of Maryland, Inc. to update its WarmWise low-income usage reduction program and EE rider.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Shaw.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Paige Shaw on behalf of staff. On April 21st, 2023, Columbia filed its proposal to update its WarmWise low-income usage reduction program and its revised EE rider effective June 2023 through May 2024. The proposed EE rider surcharge in the filing will replace the existing surcharge effective May 31, 2023. Columbia is proposing an EE rider of negative 0.00016 per therm, which would return money back to residential customers. This is due to Columbia only using the unspent funds from the 2022-2023 program year as its total budget. The company is forecasting it will still be able to weatherize around 13 homes for the upcoming program year. Staff has reviewed the filing and finds the company's proposed EE rider is reasonable and prudent and concludes that the rates were calculated correctly. Staff recommends the Commission approve Columbia's WarmWise low-income usage reduction program and accept for filing Columbia's revised EE rider effective May 31, 2023.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. Mr. Albert, counsel for Columbia Gas of Maryland.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Candace Tonello, Senior Counsel for Columbia Gas of Maryland, and we have Tammy Revere here. She's an Outreach and Education Coordinator.
Thank you. Do you have any comments in response to the staff's recommendation or buck sheet?
We do not.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any questions for the parties? Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. I just had one, hopefully easy question. You noted that during the last program year, you had a limited amount of customer interest in the program. Have you made some modification or changes in order to make certain that this year you'll have interested enough consumers in order to reach the goal you've set?
I'll let Ms. Revere handle that question.
We have actually targeted new MEEP customers, so we got a list of all of the newly MEEP to go through. So we're targeting that population. We've also increased our social media. We've been contacting our partner agencies. They hand out flyers at events. And again, I'm doing all the calls and screening for all of the potential customers. So we're hitting it hard. It's just been a tough road to try and get people to allow us to come in and administer the free program.
Do you think any of it was the legacy issues related to the pandemic, or was it just that people didn't want to spend their money, or what was the cause that you were able to identify?
What I'm getting a lot of is that when they get a MEEP grant, it covers so much of their bill. It's not, they have a credit on their bill, so it's not worth it, in their words, to have to deal with people coming in their home for up to possibly 3 days to administer the measures for the weatherization. So a lot of pushback with that. Also the demographic. We have a lot of elderly customers who actually own the homes, and they are just afraid. And to your point, yes, it is still with the pandemic. They just do not want to be around that many strange people in their home.
Okay.
But we'll keep trying.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Seeing no additional questions, I would move that we approve Columbia Gas of Maryland's Warm Wise Low Income Usage Reduction Program and accept the tariff revisions for filing with an effective date of May 31st, 2023. The vote begins with Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 19 consists of revised tariff pages from Baltimore Gas and Electric Company.
Good morning, Mr. Monka.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Alden Manka on behalf of staff. On April 13, 2023, Baltimore Gas and Electric Company filed Supplement 495 to PSC MDG9, which revises their tariff pages to include changes to its comprehensive balancing service price and the self-balancing service price for daily metered customers to be effective June 1st, 2023. BGE is required to balance all gas volumes transported on their system and is assessed costs for any storage associated with an over-delivery or under-delivery of gas. These costs are passed on to sales service customers. Daily metered customers are required to pay a fee to cover imbalances in gas delivery, and the money collected from that fee is passed back to sales customers to offset the impact on their bill. Daily metered customers have two gas imbalance payment options. They can either use the comprehensive balancing service, which is a flat fee for each therm they use, or the self-balancing service, which has an escalating fee only on the therms that are out of balance. BGE is proposing to keep the comprehensive balancing service fee the same at $0.0007 per therm, while reducing the self-balancing service fee from a weighted average cost of $0.00648 per therm to $0.00627 per therm. The fees are determined by the costs to the company associated with gas storage. All current BGE customers, daily metered customers, use the comprehensive balancing service, so this change will have no effect on any customer bills. Staff recommends the Commission accept the revised tariff pages for filing with an effective date of June 1st, 2023. Thank you, and I am available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Manka. We'll turn to counsel for the utility. Good morning, Ms. Sikora.
Good morning, Chairman Stanek, Commissioners. Beverly Sikora on behalf of BGE. We have no additional comments, but we're here if you have any questions for us.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Seeing none, I would move that we accept the tariff revisions for filing with an effective date of June 1st, 2023. The vote begins with Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Item number 20 is a request from Baltimore Gas and Electric Company for an extension of the operational deadline in case number 9619 for BGE's Fairhaven Energy Storage Pilot Project.
Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. DeAndre Wilson on behalf of staff. On April 15th, 2020, Exelon filed its approval request for BGE's Energy Storage Pilot Project for the Fairhaven Energy Storage Project Pilot Program, pursuant to Commission Order Number 89240 in Case 9619, which established an energy storage pilot program in accordance with the Energy Storage Pilot Project Act. The project was approved on November 6th of 2020 by Commission Order Number 89664, subject to the general conditions specified in the order and an operational start date of February 28th of 2022. On October 1st, 2021, Exelon filed updated project cost and a request for an extension of the operational start date of the project. The Commission approved the company's request for good cause, and the project's operational start date was set to November 22nd of 2022. On September 27th of 2022, BGE filed a second request for a revised operational start date for its Fairhaven project for good cause, citing supply chain issues and project design changes. The company's request was granted with good cause, and its revised operational start date was set for May 2023. BGE is now requesting a revised operational deadline for the project, the Fairhaven project, of November 2023, because of further delays due to supply chain issues and a project redesign. The company does not anticipate any increase in the overall project budget and therefore no changes to the benefit cost ratio of the project because the project developer will be incurring all associated costs. The last calculated benefit cost ratio for the company's Fairhaven project was 0.99. Therefore, staff still views BGE's Fairhaven project as a viable project that can provide substantial benefits to the electric grid as well as learnings that will be useful for future energy storage projects and programs. Should the Commission not approve the company's request, the total stranded cost for the project is estimated at $11.8 million. Staff recommends, pursuant to Public Utilities Article 7-216H62, staff recommends the Commission approve BGE's request for revised operational start date of November 2023 for its Fairhaven project for good cause. This concludes staff's comments. Staff would also like to note that the Office of People's Counsel has filed comments in reference to this filing.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Dean, Office of People's Counsel, did file comments supporting staff. Office of People's Counsel wish to add anything more? Ms. Woods, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Our Office of People's Counsel doesn't have much to add. We'll just reiterate that our office continues to generally support the utilities moving forward with these projects approved under the pilot program. And for many of the reasons cited by staff, our view is that BGE has demonstrated good cause for an extension here. And additionally, as we've discussed in relation to prior extension requests, the Commission's approval of the extension does not constitute pre-approval of any future cost recovery.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. You had to get that in there, but it's in there.
Thank you.
Although we're getting 0.99 is getting awfully close to 1.0. Good morning, Counsel for Baltimore Gas Electric.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Daniel Herson for Baltimore Gas and Electric. I also have with me Joy Trotman, who's our Senior Project Manager for large projects. She's the project manager on the Fairhaven project, and Ethan Holmes, a Principal Business Analyst in our strategy group, who's been handling the Fairhaven project in the energy storage pilot. Needless to say, Mr. Chairman, I was really hoping that I did not have to come back to you and your colleagues on this particular matter. And we were really close, really close. In fact, since we filed the request for this additional extension, we've had a lot of additional progress at the site. So if you or your colleagues were to drive by the project right now, it looks essentially done. The fencing is up. Most of the site restoration work has been completed. The battery storage containers are in place. The inverters are in place. It looks like a done project. Unfortunately, we're still waiting on some of these supply chain issues, and specifically, this is related to the medium voltage switchgear and some fuses that just haven't arrived yet. And we can't turn the system on until we get those final parts. They're delayed from overseas delivery. We're not exactly sure when they're going to come in, but we feel pretty confident at this point we're going to see those arrive in the coming weeks and months as we move through the summertime. So, why am I requesting a deadline extension to November? Frankly, because, we've been down this road before and things happen. And although I'm confident we can get this turned on before then, and I've made the commitment in the filings and appearing before you before that if we can, we're going to turn it on as soon as we can, and we're going to notify the Commission and the stakeholder parties that we've done so. But I just want to build in that time because, we've seen this happen before, and I just don't know. I can't sit here and say for certain we're going to get it on this particular date. But we've taken care of all the design change issues. Those are in the rearview mirror. We've made the repairs to the foundation that we mentioned in the filing. The developer covered those costs, so I'm not coming before your honors with any additional costs associated with this project. We've had good relationship with the community. We've talked to the Deal Volunteer Fire Department, which is the closest firehouse there. They know the project is there and it is going to be turned on soon. So I'm really almost to the goal line. I need a little bit more time. So we're respectfully requesting an extension to November.
Thank you, Mr. Herson. We are also sympathetic and aware of supply chain issues. Last week, when our local utility that serves the city of Baltimore lost power and then restored power, the surge destroyed our server room upstairs, and it took us, we were scrambling nationally to find a server, but it took a few days. I understand that delays for switchgear will take even longer than finding a server. Hopefully this project will be operational long before November, and hopefully you won't be in a position to ask for yet another extension. I turn to my colleagues. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a comment. I'm reminded of a commercial. I'm not sure what they're even hawking on television running these days. Where a little girl, maybe the age of 6 or 7, I'm guessing, precocious young lady's running a lemonade stand, and she says to the man who wants to be kind and walks up, "Lemonade, sir?" And I'm paraphrasing, of course. And he says, "Sure." And she says, "Thank you, that'll be $5," and sticks her hand out. And he's shocked. $5 charge for a couple ounces of lemonade, and she looks at it and said, "Supply chain issues." And so I don't know when we have an end to supply chain issues. Some industries seem to have overcome them nicely. I've been looking at consumer goods. The consumer goods are flowing fine. I know there's some electrical equipment that certainly has some problems, but much like the frozen tundra of Maryland excuse and CSEGs for extending operational deadlines, I just wanted to give the call that these supply chain issues cannot be the excuse du jour for every du jour in the future. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Seeing no additional questions on this item, I would move that we approve BGE's request for a revised operational start date of November 2023 for its Fairhaven project for good cause shown pursuant to Public Utilities Article 7-216 H as in Hotel 6, Romanet II. The vote begins with Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard. Aye. I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 21 is the annual STRIDE reconciliation from Baltimore Gas and Electric Company for calendar year 2022.
Good morning, Mr. Greger.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. James Greger appearing on behalf of Commission staff. Also representing staff, we have Kobe Anayam of Engineering Division, Mark Riley of the Accounting Investigations Division, and Pamela Coates of the Telecommunications, Gas, and Water Division. This item is Baltimore Gas and Electric Company's STRIDE reconciliation filing for calendar year 2022. Staff's comments detail the review by the Engineering Division of the work performed by the company's gas distribution system under the 2022 STRIDE program. Section 4-210 of the Public Utilities article provides for the recovery of reasonable and prudent investment associated with accelerated gas company infrastructure improvements and replacements through a surcharge. Under Public Utilities article, Section 4-210D3, the surcharge may include property taxes, depreciation, and the gas company's authorized pre-tax rate of return in the cost of a STRIDE project. Surcharges are capped under PUA Section 4-210D4, with the rate for residential customers capped at $2. For non-residential customer classes, the cap must be consistent with the proportion of total distribution revenues that each class bears in accordance with the most recent base rate proceeding for the affected gas company. The Commission reviews each STRIDE company's collections annually after actual costs have been booked for the preceding year. As shown in Table 3 of staff's comments, a total of 37.6 miles of main was installed, approximately 73.87% of the company's original estimate of 50.9 miles. Furthermore, BGE abandoned and/or replaced approximately 41.75 miles of gas main, approximately 71% of its original estimate of 59 miles. BGE's filing indicates that supply chain issues hampered its work progress throughout 2022, and the company continues to incur variances associated with the discrepancies between the proposed project costs and final project costs. These variances are often associated with costs for labor, equipment, materials, restoration, and engineering and supervision. The company's reconciliation filing indicates an undercollection for all customer classes. However, as since June 1st, 2023, BGE's STRIDE surcharges have been at the rate cap for all customer classes. Staff agrees with the company that the surcharge rates will not change as a result of this reconciliation filing. Proposed monthly surcharges can be seen on Table 9 of staff's comments. Staff recommends that the Commission accept the 2022 STRIDE True-Up Report and authorize BGE to bill its customers the rates in Table 9 of staff's comments. Thank you, and the staff team is available to answer any questions you may have in this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Greger, and to the team standing behind you. We'll turn to the utility. Good morning. Again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Daniel Herson for Baltimore Gas and Electric. On this matter, I have with me Colin Tidings, our Manager of Reliability Programs, Kevin Nelson, our Senior Manager of Project Management and Main Replacement Projects, and John Frayne, our Director of Regulatory Strategy and Revenue Policy. I want to thank staff for their analysis here. I also want to thank staff and OPC for their analysis on the last matter. I neglected to thank them then. On this particular matter, I don't have a presentation, but I did have a couple points I wanted to reiterate. 2022, as I think I mentioned when I appeared before your honors in July or August for the mid-year, it was a challenging year for us due to, dare I say it, ongoing supply chain issues as well as constrained labor market. And also, frankly, we had some projects that had lower total asset replacement numbers, but they, in many instances, were more complex projects because we've kind of hit the low-hanging fruit in the early years of the STRIDE program, and we're moving into more complex areas of our service territory where the projects are a little bit more involved. All that being said, I think we did a very good job keeping our employees, internal employees that work on STRIDE, as well as our contractors, very busy. There was no downtime. There was no sitting around. We were shifting work crews around projects as needed so that we kept everything moving. And I believe we were still able to remove a significant amount of aged infrastructure from our system, including low pressure, which we continue to focus on, cast iron and bare steel main. We installed the largest amount of new gas main across all of our gas replacement projects in recent memory. And we completed a decent amount of the gas services replacement work despite severe material shortages impacting our services. Overall, our replacement numbers were down for 2022, but our costs were down too. So we didn't have a situation where we were spending more than we estimated for lower production. But, we know that we came up a little short last year, and we're hoping to make up a lot of that this year in 2023. But I want to commend Mr. Nelson, Mr. Tidings, our team. They've been working very hard, dealing with some tough situations. So I'm happy to take any questions that you or your colleagues have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have questions for BGE? Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe my questions are for staff if now is appropriate.
Yes, sir.
To the staff of the Public Service Commission, these questions are for both edification and clarification of many arguments we're hearing now in this arena. And so, first of all, STRIDE was implemented by an act of the legislature to advance recover on infrastructure, aging infrastructure replacement in our gas distribution systems. Is that correct?
That is, I'll defer to engineering.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The answer is yes.
So if it's being implemented, we get criticized a lot for allowing these, it's a rather expensive program, but allowing this replacement of gas. But that's not the policy of the state, because the policy of the state was, in this arena, was last stated during the implementation of STRIDE, if my knowledge is correct, and no intervening legislative action to say don't do this anymore. We're going to phase out gas. We're not going to serve. We're going to go away from it. Don't do this. That hasn't happened. So in my mind, the policy explicitly has to be what the legislature previously ordained, which is to fix this aging infrastructure, notwithstanding the very large cost of doing so. Is that not correct?
That is exactly correct.
Okay, so how would we deal with a situation? I mean, we don't want to make policy decisions or decisions from this bench or this commission, I believe, based on some wanted or hoped for future policy state. We have to operate off the existing law, the existing public utility article status, the existing policy of the state as it exists, and it's not something else. It's not, we're not going to fix this stuff anymore because it's too expensive and we got to curtail that. Is that not correct?
That is correct, yes.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I needed some edification on that because many parties criticize us for allowing this, and they make some pretty wild allegations. And they're painful because we're simply carrying out our obligation to faithfully and diligently execute the law without partiality or prejudice. And the legislature has not made any changes intervening that. And so we have to implement this because it's the law. And for those who desire to have us implement some future policy state that doesn't exist yet, I think it's fanciful and it's not well founded. And I had to say that to get some edification and some clarification of the policy position of the state on the record. Thank you.
You won't hear any argument from me. Do any of my other colleagues have any questions? Seeing none, I would move that we accept BGE's 2022 Stride True-Up Report and authorize BGE to bill its customers the rates listed in Table 9 of staff's comments dated April 26, 2023. The vote begins with Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 22 is Washington Gas Light Company's calendar year 2022 annual Stride Report.
Mr. Greger and his newly assembled team are coming to the podium. Good morning again.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think we have everyone. Good morning again, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. James Greger appearing on behalf of staff. Also representing staff, we have Nagusi Tesfaye of the Engineering Division, Jamie Smith of the Accounting Investigations Division, and Evan Thomas of the Telecommunications, Gas, and Water Division. This item is Washington Gas Light Company's Stride reconciliation filing for calendar year 2022. Staff's comments detail the review by the Engineering Division of the work performed on the company's gas distribution system under the 2022 Stride program. Again, it's Section 4, or the Public Utilities Article, Section 4-210, that provides for the recovery of reasonable and prudent investment associated with accelerated gas company infrastructure improvements and replacements through the surcharge. Again, the Commission reviews each Stride company's collections annually after actual costs have been booked for the preceding year, and this reconciliation covers the fourth year of WGL's second Stride plan. As shown in Table 3 of staff's comments, the company remediated and/or replaced 3,568 services of a planned 3,810, installed a total of 17.5 miles of mains versus 17.2 miles planned for replacement, and retired all 17.3 miles of mains from the system that was originally planned. WGL spent approximately $86.3 million for all calendar year 2022 Stride projects. That is about 103% of the company's estimated total cost of $83.4 million for all programs. On March 2nd, 2022, the Commission issued order number 999 in case number 9486. The order approved a reduction of WGL's 2022 Stride surcharge by 14.7% without a reduction to WGL's Stride budget. Staff's review of the filing found that WGL was in compliance with the Commission's orders for its STRIDE program, and the company's calendar year 2022 annual STRIDE report filing includes the company's surcharges with a 14.7% reduction. In accordance with Commission Order Number 999 and the STRIDE reconciliation factors, the billed rate to customers will not change as a result of the company's calendar year 2022 STRIDE reconciliation. Therefore, staff recommends that the Commission note the company's calendar year 2022 annual STRIDE report filing, which includes the company's surcharges with the 14.7% reduction, in accordance with Order Number 999 and the STRIDE reconciliation factors. The staff team is available should you have any questions concerning this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greger, and to your team. Good morning, Mr. Dodge.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. John Dodge appearing on behalf of STRIDE. I don't have a prepared statement for you. I do have a well-heeled team in back of me to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. We still have a full house here. We have a few more items to go and a few rulemaking sessions right after the AM. Do my colleagues have questions? Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to affiliate in shorthand my previous comments to the Washington Gas Light filing as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Duly noted. Mr. Dodge, you are appearing on behalf of Washington Gas Light Company today, is that right?
I am, Your Honor.
Okay.
I apologize if I didn't make that clear.
I think you are made an appearance on behalf of STRIDE, but
Our favorite child.
seeing no additional questions, I would move that we note Washington Gas Light Company's calendar year 2022 annual STRIDE filing, which includes the company's surcharges and the 14.7% surcharge reduction in accordance with Order Number 90099 and the STRIDE reconciliation factors. The vote begins with Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 23 is the revised residential SOS bid plan of the Potomac Edison Company.
We'll give a moment for some folks to exit. Mr. Dodge is going to take this opportunity to leave quickly. Good morning, Mr. McCullough.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Drew McCullough on behalf of staff. On May 5th, 2023, Potomac Edison filed its revised SOS bid plan for residential service. PE's residential SOS bidding was conducted on April 10th and 24th of 2023. However, during these bid dates, PE received offers for residential service. However, one of these bids for a 12-month block in which service begins on June 1st, 2024, was not procured because the offers exceeded the price anomaly threshold, or PAT. Phase 2, settlement in case 8908, described the procedures that must occur if SOS service is not procured and awarded to a supplier during a bid period. Staff reports that all of these procedures have been met, and PE has proposed to rebid this block during the June 5th, 2023 SOS auction. Staff has no issues or concerns with this proposal, and staff recommends that the Commission accept the revised PE SOS bid plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Council for the utility.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Jeffrey Trout, Council to Potomac Edison. 20 years ago, when we set up the SOS process, we included a contingency plan for exactly these sorts of circumstances. The plan was activated, and we explained at the April 27th hearing what we intended to propose to all the stakeholders in the SOS process. Staff convened a meeting of the stakeholders. We made our proposal. No one had any objections. No one has filed any objections today. Staff is supportive of how we intend to proceed. So this is an established procedure that we are following. It has the concurrence or non-opposition of all stakeholders, and with your permission, we will go forward and execute on this plan next Monday.
Thank you. I turn to my colleagues. Any concerns or issues? Seeing none, I would move that we accept the Potomac Edison Company's revised SOS bid plan. The vote begins with Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 24 is a request to qualify the residents of 3 multi-dwelling units operated by the Montgomery Housing Partnership as low and moderate income subscribers under the Community Solar Program.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Albert.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Kenneth Albert on behalf of staff. I would note at the other podium is Ash Badia, with the director with the Montgomery Housing Partnership, the sponsor of this project. This item addresses the filing by Montgomery Housing Partnership, call it MHP, that asks the Commission to determine that residents of 3 multi-dwelling units operated by MHP qualify as low-income or moderate-income subscribers as part of the Maryland Community Solar Program. Comar states that moderate income in connection with this program means a subscriber whose gross annual household income does not exceed 80% of the median income from Maryland for the year of subscription. And under Comar, to qualify for the low and moderate income category of the community solar projects, 30% of the project's generation must be for LMI customers, and the low-income subscribers must receive at least 10% of the generation. MHP provided us data on the households. They explained their process for verifying income when someone first moves into these apartments, and then for annual relook to verify continued eligibility. They showed that 335 of the 355 households in these 3 apartment buildings satisfy the Commission standards as low income. The remaining 15 of the remaining 20 satisfy the standards for moderate income. Therefore, the project, we believe, has verified, shown that these are eligible subscribers in the LMI category. As a result, we recommend that the Commission find that the residents qualify as low income or moderate income as part of the community solar.
Thank you for the verification. If you could please enter an appearance.
Sure. Ash Bathi with Montgomery Housing Partnership.
Thank you. Can you explain how MHP is associated with Neighborhood Sun, or is Neighborhood Sun?
Neighborhood Sun contacted MHP they apparently, from what I understand, have a share of this community solar project in Montgomery County and are selling part of the community solar credits that are generated for low and moderate income households.
Neighborhood Sun Benefit Corp. Is the moving party in this case, though, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Do you have any reaction or additional information in response to Mr. Albert's commentary?
Other than I agree with it? No.
It's good to get that on the record. Thank you. Do my colleagues have questions? Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. Just one quick question. Since you are representing, working on behalf of a organization that is representing so many low-income and moderate-income customers, there's been a challenge statewide to encourage customers who are eligible for one program to participate in others, where they may also be eligible. Does MHP have some type of solution or initiative that you use to encourage residents to participate in more than one program for which they may be eligible?
Yes, we have a resident services group that goes out and does community outreach to all 2,400 of our households in Montgomery County, as well as DC and Prince George's County. But we have a dedicated team that does reach out, and our property management team also touches every household at our communities to participate in every program that is eligible for them.
So, do your residents understand that these individuals are coming to their properties, or is this more of just a cold visit?
No, they understand. There are flyers, and there are 24-hour notices that are put on the front door, so that they're notified when someone is coming to either solicit or provide information that could be beneficial to them.
Okay. Does your your organization participate in any of the other low-income work groups that are run by some of the other state agencies? I mean, this type of experience might be something that'd be helpful to them, to help them come up with solutions that would expand beyond where it's happening now in Montgomery County.
Not that I'm aware of.
I've only been with the organization for a year, so
So-
we do have a whole team that's dedicated to resident services. So I know that they're touching every household, so I'm sure they're aware of any program that's available in Montgomery County. They're well aware of.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Seeing no additional questions, I would move that the commission find that the residents of the 3 multi-dwelling units operated by Montgomery Housing Partnership qualify as low or moderate income subscribers under the Maryland Community Solar Program. The vote begins with Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 25 is a petition from the Potomac Edison Company for consent and approval to terminate a PURPA contract with AES Warrior Run.
Thank you. There was apparently some confusion amongst the parties with respect to the format of this item today. This is an AM item. All AM items are effectively legislative-styled hearings or mini hearings. So we'll address this as such. Today, I recognize that we do have a pending request from Office of People's Counsel to convert this into a trial-type evidentiary hearing. We have numerous documents that were filed, including testimony by our staff, testimony by the moving party, Potomac Edison in this case, associated filings. Office of People's Counsel led to some confusion in our dockets room this morning. I just want to be clear. Why don't we take appearances first, and then I have some questions.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Lloyd Spivak for the Commission staff. With me is Andrew Slick, who provided staff's testimony in this matter.
Thank you. I'll turn to People's Counsel.
And Mark Shebist for Office of People's Counsel. With me today is Deputy People's Counsel Bill Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Shivist.
Good morning. Sorry, Amiel on behalf of the Sierra Club.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, if you'd like to take a seat right up front, you may. Yeah. At the table. Yes. We have a lot of crowding going on at the podium, so make yourself comfortable. Mr. Shivist, if you'd like to take a seat as well, you may. Counsel for Potomac Edison.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Jeffrey Trout for Potomac Edison. If you want, I'll sit at the table, but I'm perfectly comfortable standing at this podium, as you are aware.
If you're comfortable standing, that would be ideal because we just ran out of seats at the table.
Make a virtue of necessity.
Anybody else that wishes to participate or speak at today's hearing? Mr. Quinn, good morning. Yeah, well, spread out.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Brian Quinn here today on behalf of AES Warrior Run. Wanted to let the commissioners know we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. I'm not asking folks to intervene today or request party status. That's not the purpose today. Mr. Shebist, let me just turn to you to iron out some issues. You filed testimony this morning, is that right?
We filed it last night, but we filed it after 5 o'clock, so I think it's docketed as of today, correct, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman?
all right. Thank you. That is, I believe, your third pleading that was filed in this matter. You filed a document yesterday, May 30th. I think there was some confusion. The document you filed after hours last night was dated May 25th. Do you have a copy of that in front of you?
I have it, May 25th. That may have been in typo.
It was the testimony of Paul Chernick.
Right, that should have been dated May 30th. I apologize for that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and you had another document dated May 30th.
We filed yesterday a cover letter accompanying the testimony. So essentially it was the same filing, but there was a slight delay between the filing of the testimony that's described in the letter.
Okay, just to be crystal clear, you filed a letter dated May 30th telling us that you were going to be filing testimony today, and then you filed testimony today. Is that right?
I think the letter said that we would be filing the testimony before the hearing this morning.
Correct, that is the words. Okay.
Yeah, and then we ended up filing it physically last night, but after 5 o'clock, so, docketed as of today.
Okay. Just to be clear, we have 3 separate mail logs for OPC, of which the most recent is misdated. So, Mr. Johnston, no error on behalf of the dockets room this morning. I think with our server meltdown, we had some confusion going on.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, could I add that there was some, I think the duplication of mail logs was due to the fact that OPC server was not communicating with the commission server, so we at first had to file via email, and then we later followed up filing via the commission's email system, or filing system.
Thank you. Thank you. There were things out of all of our control last week that caused a few wrinkles. All right, so last month in April, we received a request to approve an agreement that was signed between the Potomac Edison Company and AES Warrior Run Limited Partnership. We have supporting testimony. We have a financial analyst review. We have the actual 14-page agreement between the two companies. And of course, we have the petition of the two companies seeking the Commission's consent and approval of this agreement to terminate a PURPA contract with a pretty significant price tag associated. I believe it was $347 million. Is that correct, Mr. Trout?
I think it's 351.
351. Okay.
Maybe 357, Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
sorry.
357.
We'll get it right eventually.
All right. The commission is being asked by the moving party, Potomac Edison, to approve this contract for the benefit of its ratepayers by no later than June 30th, 2023, or otherwise, I think Sierra Club says it's an exploding agreement. Is that your term, exploding agreement?
Yeah, I think exploding offer.
It's an exploding
Same term.
offer. Mr. And I'm just covering the bases before we ask questions. Mr. Quinn, do we have any jurisdiction over your company?
No, sir, Your Honor. But to note for the record, we filed a letter of support for the application on April 30th. It's in the record.
Thank you. Yes, I've seen that letter of support. And just to be clear, any data request or discovery made of your client are being declined. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. We're not in a party to this matter.
Thank you. Thank you for appearing. We may have questions of you if you can answer them
Sure.
today. And I recognize that you're not submitting AES to the jurisdiction of this commission by your appearance today. Is that my understanding?
But I have representatives of the company here with me.
Thank you.
I can't answer your questions.
You might be looking over your shoulder a lot, I expect. Okay, we have also testimony from our own staff. Andrew Schlicht filed testimony noting caveats, but staff's general support of this petition. Is that correct, Mr. Spivak?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And Sierra Club, let me just ask you a few questions, ma'am. I've reviewed your, I believe, 2 pleadings you filed. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Are the positions of your members not adequately represented by the Office of People's Counsel today? I did see that you stated that you are representing interests of residential ratepayers in the state. So I see some overlap.
That's correct, but we're representing our members' interests, many of whom are ratepayers, in a clean and healthy environment and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and that is not entirely encompassed by the mission of the Office of People's Counsel.
Mr. Trout, if you can kick us off. Obviously, we're all very familiar with the 30-year contract that was that locked in Potomac Edison ratepayers until 2029. Is that correct?
February of 2030.
2030, February of 2030. And it appears now that you have an opportunity to negotiate a buyout with the Warrior Run, the owners of the Warrior Run facility, to save your customers tens of millions of dollars over the course of the next 7 years by providing AES with a monthly payment that sums to $357 million. In a nutshell, can you address some of the concerns raised by Sierra Club and Office of People's Counsel today as to why they either may need more time, they may need a trial type evidentiary hearing, and address the concern that why do we need to rush? Apparently we have a 30-year contract, and now it seems like we're rushing to make a decision in the next 30 days. So multi-part question there. And Mr. Quinn, if you'd like to address any of those after Mr. Trout, you may.
So, those are all fair questions, Mr. Chairman, and let me start by saying Mr. Reaping is here with me today, whom you all know, and who has worked with this contract for most of its life. And both Mr. Reaping and I have hoped for years that we would be able to come before you and bring you the kind of agreement that we have brought you today. And you, whether you accept it or reject it, my client, Potomac Edison's financial position isn't changed one whit. We have no financial interest in the outcome of this. We are doing this entirely for the benefit of our customers. That said, it is our belief, it is our company's belief, that this is a good transaction and that the Commission should approve it. And we intend to stand by the agreement that we made with the owners of the Warrior Run plant. Why? So let's start with the timing. Why does this need to be decided before the expiration date of the agreement, which is June 30th? It needs to be decided because in order to make an agreement, to figure out what the payout terms would be, how much, how, and for how long, we needed a date certain. We needed a closing date. And that's the magic, and that's, from our perspective at least, Potomac Edison's perspective, the only magic to June 30th. But it's important because if you go through that deadline and the contract goes away on its own terms, and if you want to use drama, you can say it blows up, whatever. The best case scenario is that the parties have to start all over again. And if the parties have to start all over again, they may or they may not reach an agreement. But one thing is absolutely certain. If we have to start all over again in July or later, the amount of time left in the contract on which we can save customers money becomes shorter. So if we don't get a deal before you and approved until the end of the year or the beginning of next year, that's a half a year's benefit that you lose. And what are the benefits of the contract to our customers? Again, there's nothing for Potomac Edison in this, one way or another. What's the benefit to our customers? We see there as being two principal benefits. The first is that you will save money over time. Customers will save money over time because they will pay less to get out of this contract than they would have had to pay if we stayed in it. It's as simple as that. Apparently, OPC filed testimony from Mr. Chernick last night where he did calculations based on Monday's forwards. And he says that there's still a savings. There's still a savings in the tens of millions of dollars, but it's less than the company projected. Mr. Bittler for Levitan that did the review of our analysis, he did his own calculations as well as a sanity check, and he came up with a different number. The staff has noted those differences, which stand for the unremarkable proposition that every day the futures market changes. But everybody who has come to you with respect to this transaction sees a substantial savings for our customer. And so that is the first benefit. The second benefit is, as you all are keenly aware, and we are keenly aware, and for that matter, staff in the Office of People's Counsel are keenly aware, there is every year the surcharge goes up and it goes down. We just did recently we did a reduction to the surcharge because market prices were up. As we noted in our filing, because market prices have started coming back down, if you do not approve this contract and the accompanying tariff revisions, we're going to have to come to you later this year and adjust the Warrior Run surcharge collection up again, up more, even immediately, than would be the case if you approve this contract. So what customers save, all customers, residential and non-residential, what they gain from this is certainty going forward. The up and down, the seesaw of the Warrior Run surcharge will cease. We will know, not to the penny, because there's going to be over-collections, under-collections, and adjustments, but those are going to be minimal. We are going to know the amount of the surcharge every month for every year for the entire remaining term of this agreement. And that, I respectfully submit, that certainty for our customers is an important benefit. There's a third point which may or may not be a benefit to our customers. It is a point to which Potomac Edison is, again, indifferent, but it goes to the arguments that have been made by the Sierra Club and by the Office of People's Counsel. And again, it's the Commission's discretion whether you even deem this to be a benefit or not. But right now, if you asked me what was the single greatest impediment to being able to shut down that coal plant, it's this contract, the existing Warrior Run contract. And if you approve this termination agreement, that impediment is removed. And to the extent you deem removing an impediment to shutting down that plant as a benefit to Maryland, that's the third benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Trout. I agree with everything you've just stated. Mr. Quinn, is there anything you disagree with?
No, sir. Chairman, thank you for asking. We believe our letter of support speaks for itself, and the matter is ripe for a decision today.
To the three parties at the table, was there anything that Mr. Trout said that you disagree with? The fact that if we delay the decision, it's a sort of a wasting savings. It's going to shrink from $79 million every month. It's going to shrink a little bit. The fact, his last point there, that removing this contract is removing an impediment to this generating station from actually being retired and going offline. And the fact that there's just general net savings, the customers will receive a net savings if the Commission takes this action to approve a limited time offer. I'm not being dramatic, but this offer may not be on the table after June 30th, or maybe it will be on the table on a rolling basis. But the numbers would change with every passing month. So let me hear if there's any disagreement with anything that Mr. Trout said. We'll start with People's Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a different perspective on most of what Counsel said. First of all, the representation that all parties agree that this agreement will deliver benefits to Potomac Edison's customers, and the question is only what the amount of those benefits will be. And Counsel pointed to Mr. Chernick's analysis that looked at different forward prices for energy market prices. And it's true that that part of the analysis did still project savings, assuming everything else is true. But there's an important second part to Mr. Chernick's preliminary testimony. It's preliminary because we simply have not had time to complete a review of everything that we need to review here. And that second part is the economics of the plant, even if the Electric Energy Purchase Agreement, the EPA, continues. We have raised significant questions about whether, even if that contract remains in place, the plant will continue to operate. That potential for the plant to become uneconomical and close before 2030 has to be weighed against the potential benefits in whatever amount they're estimated to be of terminating the agreement early. And, again, we have filed a motion requesting an evidentiary hearing in this matter in lieu of a legislative hearing because there are important material facts in dispute concerning both of those issues.
And you do not think that providing the parties with additional time would allow you to conduct additional discovery? Your only option in your position is an evidentiary hearing?
Well,
would more time help, or no? You need to cross-examine a witness.
It's possible that with additional analysis and additional discovery, it may be possible to avoid the need for an evidentiary hearing. I can't represent that to the commission today.
Because you don't know?
Because I don't know, correct.
Okay. And Mr. Quinn is not going to be sponsoring a witness for you to cross-examine?
Apparently not. Although Mr. Chairman, we're taking the position that given the facts in dispute in this case and the evidence that's on the record right now, this is not an agreement that the commission can approve. We agree with Mr. Quinn that the commission does not have jurisdiction over AES. However, we would ask that the commission not approve the agreement unless AES agrees to submit itself to the commission's jurisdiction and answer some of these important questions.
So, Mr. Shibas, is your position that if Warrior Run doesn't provide a witness or respond to your question, I think you just stated that the commission should not approve the contract. Is the Office of People's Counsel willing to roll the dice and take their chances that the $79 million in professed savings that Mr. Trout has calculated with his experts would effectively go out the window and we'd keep this contract through February of 2030?
Mr. Chairman, we have not reached a definite conclusion on this agreement. What we've said is that if the commission is going to make a decision today based on the current record, based on the current evidence, we oppose the agreement. We are open to possibly changing our mind based on additional information and analysis.
And that information would come from?
Well, it would come from further review by our expert witness who, as we stated in our letter filed last week, we were only able to retain him on May 11th, about 3 weeks after the company filed its petition in this matter. And we've worked as diligently as we can to get him to review these very complicated pleadings and analyses.
I think you make a reasonable argument. A lot needs to be done in a relatively short amount of time. Mr. Quinn, if you could answer, or your clients could answer, who approached who with respect to this agreement? Does PE knock on your door every month, or did Warrior Run contact Potomac Edison?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask John Bigleball to join me from AES Warrior Run. He's the COO, and he's also a president of the Warrior Run facility, I believe. John.
Thank you. Good morning. If you could just state your name for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. My name is John Bigleball. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for our U.S. Conventional Generation.
Thank you. You may have heard my question. Who initiated the discussions with respect to this buyout agreement?
To be honest, I'm not exactly sure. Our M&A group is the ones that worked on this project, but we know from history of operating the plant for 23 years, there's been somewhat of an interest of somehow buying out or terminating this PPA.
No, I suspect there has been. I'll ask the other side.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Bob Reaping for the Potomac Edison Company. I'm Manager of Regulated Commodity Sourcing. So shortly after the announcement by AES that they had a goal, an aspiration to get out of the coal space by the end of 2025, I reached out to the plant manager at the time, Peter Bajak, to find out what exactly that meant to Potomac Edison, AES Warrior Run, and the current agreement that we had. That announcement actually had taken the plant personnel by surprise also, so they said they did not know. They would contact AES Corporate and get back to us. Probably around July then of 2022, we received a call from Philip North as part of their mergers acquisitions group to give us an update on their what that statement meant, and to also discuss whether we were interested in investigating a potential buyout of the contract. At that point in time, Mr. North and I began our discussions, which then culminated with the termination agreement earlier this year.
Thank you for that response. I appreciated it. I know now that the utility initiated the request. Mr. Trout, I'd just like to highlight the fact that, as you stated, the utility is indifferent here. It seems like your number one priority here is saving your customers additional dollars that would have otherwise been spent. Did I get any of that wrong?
No, Mr. Chairman, you are exactly right. I'd like to speak just very briefly on the, with respect to the timing of retaining experts here. In its first filing, the Office of People's Counsel, I believe correctly, laid out the timeline here, which is that we, or more specifically I, reached out to both staff and the Office of People's Counsel before we had a signed agreement. So it was to let them know that we were working very hard on an agreement and that we may be bringing them an agreement. Within a day of signing the agreement in March, we gave the agreement to both staff and People's Counsel. Prior to our filing our testimony, we gave drafts of our testimony to the Office of People's Counsel and to staff for their pre-review, and that it was at the suggestion of well, it was as a result of discussions with staff and People's Counsel that we retained the third-party experts on this plant, the Levitan firm, Mr. Bittler, to do the analysis that was included in our testimony, which we also turned over.
Mr. Trout, I'm trying to see where you're going. Are you trying to rebut OPC's argument that they really don't need more time because you've laid?
I'm trying to let the commission know that in addition to working with Warrior Run to get an agreement, we have tried diligently to work with staff and the Office of People's Counsel to let them know that an agreement was coming and what was in the agreement. And we recognized from the outset that it was going to be an issue for the commission to try to approve this by a date certain. And that is one of the reasons why we worked so hard, so long, from as early as possible with the parties to try to set up their... It had been my hope until last night that the Office of People's Counsel would join staff in supporting this transaction, and I see that that's not the case, although I hear that they're not categorically opposed. They just want more time.
That, and I give all the parties credit because everybody to this matter provided the commission with the appropriate background. We recognize there were pre-filing consultations. OPC admitted that. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Trout. Let me turn back to AES. It's been well publicized. Your corporate office has released the press release stating that AES intends to exit the coal generation business by 2025. Is that correct?
Yes, by the end of 2025.
End of 2025.
And that is an intention. It's not anything binding.
The current PURPA contract runs through 2030. Here we are today, halfway through 2023. I think there may be a concern among some in this room that if Potomac Edison ratepayers pay AES the $357 million buyout, we don't know the corporate intent of AES. You may very well be planning to exit the Maryland market well before 2030. And then ratepayers on the hook for this rather expensive payment, not knowing whether or not AES was planning all along to just depart and retire this generating station. Can you respond to those concerns?
Sure. I mean, I would agree that this PPA is an impediment, as described. But as far as the concern of, is this plant capable of running through the end of 2030? It's a fact that we're in the middle of a major overhaul right now that will be wrapping up in about a week. That's a complete overhaul of the turbine. So this is a very reliable plant. We have not stopped any maintenance on this plant. So we would expect this plant to go to the end of its PPA.
Notwithstanding the corporate announcement that AES plans to exit by 2025?
Notwithstanding, I mean, I think, when you think about a company, we have a lot of stakeholders that are involved in it, right? One of them are our shareholders. So shutting down and walking away is a difficult option.
Your Honor, may I make an objection? The company is effectively presenting testimony here unsworn. This is exactly the reason why we need an evidentiary hearing in this matter.
We're just fact-finding today. Your request is noted. It's on the record. Trying to set the corners, frame this debate, and then we'll make a decision on your request before we conclude today. I've asked a lot of questions. I'll turn to my colleagues for some questions. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some brief commentary, and then I have what arguably are 4 substantive questions, and then a process question. So Mr. Trout knows this. No one will be happier than me. I'll be one of the happiest people in the energy space in Maryland should this PURPA contract be ended. And I also can tell you, additionally, from personal knowledge, and many of you know this, how hard the Western Maryland delegation has worked to, the Western Maryland delegation has worked to find a way to curtail and stop, protect your customers, you name it, you got it. All to no avail because we don't have jurisdiction here. It's a jurisdictional issue, which comes under PURPA. Having said all that, if we're going to make a decision here, I think it needs to be with eyes wide open, and what sounds good needs to be verified to be in the public's interest. So in a general sense, I have some agreement with OPC. But I want to understand what being discussed here today, how that works in reality. So let me go ahead and ask some substantive questions. First of all, to OPC, is your expert testimony that I believe was submitted in draft form now finalized? Is it the final copy?
Commissioner O'Donnell, it was submitted in preliminary form insofar as the testimony that we submitted was final, but the consultant has additional review and analysis to do of the various materials that are part of the filing.
So the only way he would change that is like we normally do in an evidentiary hearing, or the counsel for the expert witness will give an opportunity for testimony to be changed on the record. But I feel like I'm operating on a draft brief. It's just draft. I don't have the final, and I don't know what's going to change, and I don't know how that's going to change. Can you comment on that? When would you expect your expert's testimony to be finalized?
Commissioner, I can't give you an exact date. We would try to complete that as quickly as possible. It's been challenging because our consultant's daughter just had a baby on Saturday. He's on the West Coast in Portland, Oregon. So we've been working with that constraint, trying to, acknowledge that he wants to spend time with his daughter and baby granddaughter while addressing these issues on the constrained timeline that we're dealing with. He's due to return to the East Coast on the 9th so that he would be available for an evidentiary hearing starting on Monday, June 12th. We would certainly work with him to try to get any additional testimony that he has on the record well before that.
So normally in an evidentiary hearing, we set out a schedule of procedure and process, and we don't have that here. And you say, well, we'll do our best to get it to you as soon as we can. But how do I know I'm going to get enough time and everybody else is going to get enough time to analyze what may be a moving target? I mean, there needs to be a date certain that we don't have, we normally would have in a pre-hearing conference on an evidentiary hearing to determine the date certain by which direct testimony will be filed.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. We're not trying to put the Commission in a difficult spot. It's difficult without the consultant here to commit to an exact date now. However, we could, I think, get back to the Commission very quickly with a date. And today is Wednesday. I mean, we could try to get something in by the end of the week, or at the latest next week.
I mean, what would you have in by the end of the week or sometime next week? A response to the Commission, an estimate, or the final testimony?
Additional testimony. Commissioner, what I'm proposing to do is talk with the consultant after today's hearing and nail down exactly what additional time we might need. Part of the issue also involves, I mean, we've raised questions again about AES and have requested that they answer questions. They have declined to do so on the grounds that they're not subject to the Commission's jurisdiction and they're not intending to submit to the Commission's jurisdiction. We continue to hope that the company will change its mind, and in that case, we would try to conduct very expedited additional discovery regarding the company and then address that through testimony.
All right, well, as it stands now, for your request, you have 12 calendar days. And you got to fit in there time for everybody to review and reply. Oh my God, you want to shoehorn all that in between now and the 12th? I'm choking on that possibility of being successful.
Yeah.
Let me move on, Mr. Chairman, to the Sierra Club. For the Sierra Club witness, what happens on June 30th if this isn't approved? What is this exploding agreement provision, and what does that mean?
Yeah, to respond to that, that's actually our exact question. We feel that there isn't enough information about what would happen if this is or is not approved by June 30th. So it's interesting that the Council for Potomac Edison noted that this would essentially remove the main impediment to shutting down Warrior Run, which is very important for complying with Maryland's climate goals. But there's no actual clarity on whether, in fact, Warrior Run would be shut down, whether upon approval or disapproval of this petition. So if there's, additionally, there's general agreement that among Warrior Run, AES, potentially the Commission as well, that this PURPA contract has been harming ratepayers, and general agreement in favor of ending the PURPA contract. But if the plant potentially intends to keep operating, we raised in our comments a real risk that there could be a formation of a new PURPA contract. For example, if AES were to continue burning coal at Warrior Run, if AES were to convert Warrior Run to biomass production potentially, or if a new company were to purchase Warrior Run and burn either coal or biomass there, there's still a real potential that the facility would qualify under PURPA and be enabled to form a new long-term, potentially 30-year PURPA contract that locks in Potomac Edison's customers once again. So that's a main concern of ours.
I can speak to that, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner O'Donnell, if you want me to, or I can wait.
Go ahead.
So there are three reasons why the concern raised by Sierra Club is about there being a new PURPA contract is a specious concern. The first is that the termination agreement says in two different places that you can't come back to us with a new PURPA contract for this plan. Full stop. So that would be enough in and of itself. The second reason is that quite apart from this contract, Potomac Edison got approval from FERC a long time ago when the PURPA rules first changed to remove the requirement to accept large PURPA contracts of this sort, and we got approval from FERC not to take these kinds of contracts. So even if the termination agreement didn't forbid Warrior Run from coming back to us and saying, okay, let's do a new contract, we have the ability, and we would exercise that right to not accept a new contract from this plant. And my understanding is that there's a third, more business-related impediment, which was even if you got past number one and number two, under our current tariff, if they tried to apply for a new contract, they would be paid substantially less than they would be paid now. They wouldn't be paid enough to make it economical for them to run the plant. So take your pick, any one of those three reasons, this argument that we're going to see Warrior Run 2 just doesn't hold water.
Mr. Chairman, might I elaborate on Mr. Trout's third point? It's my understanding at this point that if a PURPA contract were to be signed and put into place, the avoided cost calculation, which the Commission determines, would be essentially PJM market cost. I mean, that's pretty much what you would have to say is the avoided cost, and that PJM market cost is probably over the next several years going to be basically declining because of incoming renewables, or at least it will be renewable resources that kind of set the prices on that market as we're looking at it. So, at worst, it would be whatever the PJM market price is. So that doesn't seem to leave much incentive for PURPA. It means that PURPA contracts are not necessarily any more privileged than any other form of generation at this point.
Well, thank you for all that to the parties. I'm just trying to figure out, Mr. Chairman, if Mr. Trout turns into a pumpkin if this time runs out and we don't have an agreement or not. We don't approve. I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't think anything. It seems like we have some latitude. But let me move on. Potomac Edison, speaking of Mr. Trout.
Yes, sir.
You say the more time that goes on, the savings are diminished, and I don't disagree with that. I tend to agree with that. When will the point of diminishing returns make this no longer in the public interest or the interest of your ratepayers from an economic standpoint? In other words, it's going to start reducing, but when will it no longer make sense to keep pursuing?
I can't tell you that, Commissioner. It will depend on the market prices in the future as compared to the contract prices. We could cross a line in a year or in a couple of years where there is no longer a viable buyout scenario, or if market prices are down, and so the gap that the customers have to pay under the surcharge remains large, we could conceivably be saving at least something by doing a buyout even in the last year or two of the contract. What we know today, or at least we believe we know today, is that there's almost $80 million in value to doing a buyout now, and there's no certainty as to what the future value is, other than that with the passage of time, there is less time in which to achieve any sort of savings.
Okay, well, I guess that makes some sense, but you would agree that we have some short-term latitude other than this kind of nebulous June 30th date to figure this out?
I tried to be clear about that at the beginning, and I will try again to be clear. This contract goes away, ceases to exist, becomes null and void, explodes, whatever you want, however you want to characterize it, if it is not approved by June 30th. This is a circumstance that you have faced many times with respect to many other contracts, merger agreements, etc., that the deal is premised on being achieved by a certain date. If it isn't approved by that certain date, then the deal is off, and if you're going to have a deal, you would then have to start all over. That is not an odd or unusual circumstance. The Commission has seen and dealt with that many times. So you have a bird in the hand. If you want to put it to one side and hope that whatever comes out of the bush is as good or better, that is entirely your prerogative. My client has no pecuniary interest in what you decide. That said, we have an agreement with Warrior Run. We stand by that agreement with Warrior Run, and we will stand by that agreement up to and including through the 30th of June, because that's inherent in us having a contract. It's part of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. We stand by our contract.
Well, it seems like what this commission is presented with is you're either going to take the deal we give you on June 30th, or you're going to approve a deal. You may not have all the information to make sure it's in the public interest. We don't have all the testimony. It's incomplete. It's draft. It's no reply to. None of this makes sense, and it's a complicated issue. And I preface my comments by saying I want this done. However, I will only do it if it's in the public interest. And I can't figure that out right now because of the position we've been put in, either approved by June 30th or else. And I hate false deadlines. I always have hated false deadlines. And I mean, to me, they're false. It may not be false to you and Warrior Run, but to the public, they may be a false deadline because we don't really know.
Commissioner, we have answered every data request that was posed to us by staff and the Office of People's Counsel. We made sure that we answered data requests early to give all the parties all the information that we have prior to the beginning of this week, and we accomplished that goal. We don't have any more information.
We don't have other information from expert testimony that's pending. We just don't have it. And we're glad you answer DRs quickly, but it's non-responsive to the point I'm making here. So
understood.
I'm going to move along. Is MEA still in the room, Mr. Chairman? Is Ms. McLemore still here?
She is. Yes, she is. She doesn't want to approach the podium, but she is.
I can't imagine why. Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner O'Donnell, I'm here.
Thank you, Ms. McLemore. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I need to ask this question because Sierra Club kind of said an alternative beneficial use would be biomass or some other low emitting or relatively clean emitting fuel source. But there's a wide range of potential beneficial uses there at that site using the infrastructure as it exists should this coal plant be shut down. Is that not so?
Yes, Commissioner O'Donnell. I believe it is so.
And
Potentially.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just, there is a potential for infrastructure to be used for other types of generation. Yes, sir.
Okay, and do you know if MEA has made a public announcement on any other potential use being considered for that site should this coal plant be shut down?
I know that we have a report that may or may not be relevant to this plant. If a report on small modular nuclear, but it's not for any specific site.
Oh, okay. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on here and what, because the implications are broad and wide. I thank you for coming to the microphone and answering that question because I think it's important. It's an important policy decision for the energy future of Maryland, and it's an important policy decision to ensuring the public interest is maintained inviolable to the extent we can. So having said those things, Mr. Chairman, process question, possible to take this under advisement for some short period of time to be able to consider, be advised and consider that advisement for some informed decision.
Yeah, Commissioner O'Donnell, yes, that's a good idea. I'm thinking along those same lines, although I see Commissioner Linton does have a question. Commissioner?
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had, I have one question for now, related to Warrior Run's letter of support. So, Mr. Quinn, good afternoon to you. In the second paragraph of your letter, you reference the fact that Warrior Run has taken the proactive step of notifying several entities regarding the termination agreement. Are you able to tell us what the format and type of that notification was, what was in it, what is the, based on that notification, what would be the expectation of the governor's office, the Allegheny County State Delegation regarding this termination agreement?
Good afternoon to you, Commissioner Linton. Yes, that we, being a good corporate citizen of Western Maryland, we've been in operation up there for over 20 years. We thought it necessary to reach out to our local Allegheny delegation and county officials and the governor's office. When, after this, slightly before this filing was made, we sent emails to those folks we named in our letter and received thanks in reply, but nothing substantive, as far as I know, in terms of feedback from any of the elected officials we reached out to.
Okay, so were these officials made aware that there was an additional administrative process that has to occur before the commission before any final termination can occur?
Yes, sir. I believe they're aware that any termination agreement, I think we said in the letter or our communications with them, we're filing an application for PSC approval of that agreement.
Okay, and so I note that in the agreement itself, Potomac Edison was to be, there would be an effort to make certain that both parties were on the same page regarding public communications about the termination agreement. So I guess to Potomac Edison, were you aware of this outreach?
Yes.
And you were aware that it was conducted prior to, I suppose, even today?
Yes.
And that you were engaged with the Office of People's Counsel during that period. I think the People's Counsel and other parties have acknowledged that they were attempting to collect information about the status of this termination agreement. Were the parties that were made aware of this termination agreement also made aware that it was coming before the commission and there could be potentially some other issues related to ultimately when it would go forward, or were they told that on June 30th the termination agreement is in effect? That's for either party.
All right. My understanding is that all of the communications that either Potomac Edison itself made, or that Potomac Edison was aware of Warrior Run making, said that either that an application, a petition for approval was going to be filed, or if after the fact that it had been filed, and that it was before the commission for the commission's decision. I am not aware of any communication, and I know for a fact there's no communication from Potomac Edison that said anything about alternatives.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure what type of complexity that I could add to this based upon the request of a couple of parties here that we look into it further. I don't think it's a major challenge, but it is something that we have to at least be cognizant of, that there are other parties out there not here today that may have a different expectation about our review of this termination agreement. So unless you're suggesting to me that they are fully aware that there's a potential that we could say no, in that sense.
But that is certainly clear.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you.
raising that important issue, Commissioner. Anything else, sir?
That's it.
No. Based on the arguments, not testimony, but the arguments that have been presented today, and the concession by Office of People's Counsel that additional time would not hurt and would allow their experts to conduct additional research and put additional testimony together, combined with the fact that additional time would allow for additional questions to be asked. I'm going to propose to my colleagues that we continue this matter for a period of 3 weeks. That still puts us within the period of the June 30th deadline that's contained in the agreement. At that point, after the parties have used efficiently the 3-week period, the commission will be in a position to either approve the contract, deny the contract. I don't expect that the commission would modify the contract, or decide that an evidentiary hearing is appropriate. Of course, if that's the case with only 9 days remaining, and it would be very hard to schedule a hearing and return a decision by June 30th, the parties to this agreement, AES and Potomac Edison, would need to decide whether or not the commission should go ahead and order an evidentiary hearing, or if we just quietly shut down this proceeding. So there's a number of options. At hand is the next 21 days, which the parties will have to address this issue. So, Mr. Secretary, unless I hear any objection from my colleagues, Commissioner O'Donnell?
Mr. Chairman, no objection, but just an admonishment to OPC. We need their final testimony as soon as possible, because if it makes people's hair catch on fire, they need a chance to respond to it due to any changes they may make going forward.
Understood, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Commissioner. And in full disclosure, I did not have an opportunity to review Mr. Chernick's testimony. Was circulated while the commissioners were on the bench this morning. It was filed after hours, and we were advised that it was coming inbound. So let's use the time productively. Mr. Secretary, if you could continue this item to our administrative meeting on June 21st, 2023, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, could I make an additional comment?
Who is that?
It's
Oh,
me.
yes.
Yeah, just want to say I appreciate the additional time. If we will use it as expeditiously as we can, if we arrive at a sort of determination that we certainly oppose it or definitely need an evidentiary hearing, we will inform the commission before the conclusion of the 3 weeks. We appreciate Potomac Edison's cooperation in getting discovery responses back to us more quickly than the timeline. You know, that mitigates, it doesn't avoid the problems of this compressed timeline that the timing of the contract has created, but it does mitigate it, and we appreciate the efforts they've made to do that so far, and we'll appreciate continuing efforts they make in that respect.
And I suspect the parties, after hearing today, the parties to the agreement may decide it's July 31st and move it a month, or they may not. This may be the last best final deal for the benefit of customers. And I would point out, as OPC acknowledged, there may be savings to residential ratepayers based on this agreement, but at this point, you just don't know. We'll see everybody back on June 21st. Before we conclude today's administrative meeting, we do have 2 rulemaking sessions that will be starting up. The next one, RM 75, will start at 12:35 this afternoon. 12:35, we have a 15-minute intermission. With that, today's administrative meeting is